My name is Isla, and my husband Chris tried to turn my life into a quiet, graceful tragedy, one that would have left him the grieving hero and me a cautionary footnote in his perfect biography. I told you about the collapse, the saffron risotto, the black tide, the sirens, the doctor finding the clonazepam, but that was just the prologue. The first page of a book he'd been writing for months. To understand the full scope of his authorship, you have to go back further, to the little revisions he'd been making to my character. It started with the headaches, 6 months before the collapse. Not migraines, but a persistent, foggy pressure he'd diagnose with a tender sigh. "You're thinking too hard, my love. The gallery is consuming you." He'd bring me tea in my studio, a special, fragrant blend from an herbalist he'd found. It's adaptogenic for resilience. The tea tasted of licorice and something earthy I couldn't name. The fog would lift, replaced by a soft, drowsy vagueness. I'd lose hours, forgot appointments, misplaced concepts for installations. Chris would find my lost keys, my missing sketches, with a patient, "See, your mind is too full. You need to delegate." Then came the panic attack, a pure fiction. We were at a donor dinner for the gallery. I was mid-sentence, speaking passionately about an upcoming exhibit, when Chris suddenly grasped my wrist under the table, his grip tight. He leaned in, his voice a theatrical whisper just loud enough for the table to hear. "Isla, darling, breathe. Look at me. Just breathe." He painted the scene so vividly, my flushed face, his racing pulse he could feel, that the concerned faces around us morphed into mirrors reflecting his lie. I was so confused, I did become flustered. He ushered me out, a portrait of devoted concern. The next day, a prescription for a low-dose anti-anxiety medication appeared on the counter next to my vitamins, from Dr. Evans, my GP. He called it in as a precaution, Chris said, kissing my forehead, just in case. I never filled it, but the story was now part of my file and our social record. Isla, so passionate, so fragile. Chris was an architect, but not of buildings. He was an architect of perception. His firm designed sleek, minimalist spaces for tech billionaires, clean lines that concealed complex, expensive systems. He applied the same principles to our life. Our marriage was his masterpiece, and any element that threatened the symmetry had to be managed. My gallery's sudden, noisy success was a jagged, beautiful sculpture plopped in the middle of his sterile white room. It couldn't be removed, so it had to be reframed as a symptom of my delicate, artistic temperament. The night of the collapse wasn't the first time he'd drugged me. It was just the first overture. The forensic analysis Maya's friend ran on the sharps container found more than clonazepam. They were traces of a barbiturate often used in twilight sedation, and scopolamine, a motion sickness drug that causes confusion and amnesia. The headaches, the lost hours, they were rehearsals. He was calibrating the dose, studying my response, scripting my decline. When I confronted the empty pantry where the magnesium powder had been, I didn't just see a missing canister. I saw a laboratory. I remembered the week prior, a bout of what I thought was food poisoning, violent nausea, disorientation. Chris had nursed me, bringing me bland broth. Probably a bug, darling. Had that been a test run? Had he watched, notebook in mind, to see how I'd react? The blood test at the ER was his first mistake, a rare miscalculation. He'd expected a vague diagnosis of exhaustion or stress-induced syncope. The specific drug was a flare he hadn't intended to launch. It forced him to pivot,
to gaslight me and the doctor in real time. He was good, but for a split second, when the doctor asked about the prescription, I saw it in his eyes. A flash of cold recalculations. Staying with Maya broke his narrative. He'd planned on me being home, groggy, dependent, under his 24/7 observation, a captive audience for his next act. Instead, I was in the one place he couldn't control, outside his set. My investigation with Maya became a forensic excavation of my own life. We obtained my medical records. Dr. Evans, confused, confirmed he'd never prescribed clonazepam. He'd had a phone consultation with a very concerned Chris about my rising anxiety, but had only suggested therapy. The prescription in the system was a forgery. A digital ghost Chris had likely inserted himself or paid a corrupt pharmacist to create. Then we looked at finances. Chris handled everything. It was part of our dynamic. He managed the real world so I could live in the creative one. A patronizing division I'd accepted as love. His digital footprint was meticulous, but Maya's forensic accountant found the whispers. The large, secret life insurance policies were just the start. There were loans taken out against my gallery's future revenue, loans I'd never signed for. Forged signatures. He was leveraging my success to fund his own separate ventures, which were failing. He'd also been slowly draining our joint investment accounts, moving funds into a labyrinth of LLCs, all while maintaining the facade of our lavish lifestyle with new debt.
He wasn't just planning my demise. He was financially cannibalizing my present to fund a future that didn't include me. The drugs were one tool. Financial suffocation was another. If the sudden illness narrative failed, a descent into financial mismanagement due to mental decline was his backup plot. Either way, he'd end up in control of the aviary and its assets. Armed with this, we didn't go to the police. Not yet. As Maya said, cops see a rich couple, a mysterious drug, he said, she said, it's a swamp. We go to his audience. We crafted our own narrative, not of a crime, but of a catastrophic breach of trust, a story for the world he valued most. I called a meeting with the three most influential members of my gallery's board: Eleanor, a steel-heeled art historian, David, a shrewd collector, and Lynn, a media magnate who loved being associated with cutting-edge culture. I didn't come tearful. I came as a CEO presenting a critical risk assessment. In a private dining room at the Modern, I laid it out, not with hysterics, but with slides. A timeline, my mystery illnesses, juxtaposed with Chris's secret loans against the gallery, the forensic report on the Sharps container, the forged medical prescription, the life insurance policies, the Cayman Islands transfers. Chris isn't just an unfaithful or unpleasant husband. He is an active, calculated liability. He has been chemically experimenting on me to induce a narrative of incapacity. He has fraudulently leveraged gallery assets. His actions pose a direct threat to the financial stability and reputation of the aviary. If this becomes public, when it becomes public, the story will not be troubled marriage. It will be noted architect used wife's gallery as personal piggy bank, sought to drug her into submission. The gallery will be at the center of a sordid scandal that will repel every artist, donor, and critic we've worked to attract. The room was silent. You could hear the clink of silverware from the next room. Eleanor spoke first, her voice like a dry ice. Where is he now? Believing he still has the upper hand. He thinks I'm confused, vulnerable, staying with my sister to recover. David, the collector, looked at the financials. These loans are callable. We can force the issue. Lynn simply smiled, a predator's grin. We don't go to the press. We go to his press. The architectural digests, the luxury lifestyle mags that profile him. We go to his clients. That was the plan. A targeted Gentile annihilation. The next day, Lynn's people made calls. Not accusations, inquiries. We're doing a piece on the pressures on creative power couples. Heard there might be some financial turbulence in the Croft-Vance household. Care to comment?" A board member from Chris's firm was quietly asked over golf. Heard Chris might be distracted by personal troubles, anything that would affect his work on the Monterey project? Simultaneously, David's lawyers sent formal, threatening letters to the banks holding the fraudulent loans, demanding immediate validation of signatures and threatening fraud charges. The walls of Chris's perfect world didn't crack. They resonated with a silent, high-frequency hum of disaster. Clients requested project reassignments. His firm's senior partners asked for a talk. The bank froze his lines of credit. He came to Maya's apartment, uninvited. The charming veneer was gone, sandblasted away by panic. He looked smaller. "Isla, you have to call them off," he begged. "Not to me, but to Maya, as if she were my handler. They're destroying my life over misunderstandings." "What's in the sharps container, Chris?" I asked, my voice quiet. He froze. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The clonazepam, the scopolamine. Were you helping me sleep, Chris? Or were you helping me disappear?" His face contorted, a mask of genuine emotion for the first time, raw, seething fury. "You were going to run my gallery into the ground with your naive little artist fantasies. You needed guidance, protection from yourself. So you were protecting me? By injecting me with sedatives? By forging loans? By taking out life insurance? That's a very specific form of protection, Chris. It looks an awful lot like premeditated theft and attempted murder." The legal word hung in the air. Murder. It changed the color of the room. "You have no proof I injected anything," he spat. "I don't need proof for a criminal trial," I said, echoing Maya's wisdom. "I just need enough proof to make every person in your life believe you're capable of it. And I do. They do." I handed him a single sheet of paper. It was a proposed divorce settlement. He would walk away with nothing but the clothes in his closet and his personal debt. He would sign over any claim to the aviary, our home, and all investments. He would also sign a confidentiality agreement, admitting to financial fraud related to the gallery, a crime we could prove, in exchange for us not pursuing the medical evidence with law enforcement. It was a devil's bargain. Admit to being a thief to avoid being investigated as a potential killer. He stared at it, his hands shaking. "This is extortion." "No, Chris," Maya said from the doorway, her arms crossed. "This is consequence. Sign it, or we file a police report tonight with the forensic tox report and the evidence of the forged prescriptions. Let's see how your concerned husband defense plays to a homicide detective." He signed. The divorce was the fastest, quietest, and most unequal in my lawyer's career. The gallery board, now my fiercely loyal allies, helped me restructure and secure new financing, severing all poisoned roots Chris had planted. I sold the brownstone, too many ghosts in the walls. The aviary thrived, its success now a symbol of resilience, not fragility. I moved into a luminous, secure loft with a state-of-the-art alarm system and a very large, very friendly dog named Tank. The last I heard, Chris had to leave the city. His reputation was a ghost town. He works for a third-rate firm in a city no one cares about, designing strip malls. Sometimes, when I'm installing a new, fierce, complicated piece of art, I think of him. Not with fear, but with a kind of cold gratitude. He thought he was the author, the architect of my destiny. He saw my vitality as a messy design flaw to be corrected. But he made a fatal error in his design. He underestimated the fundamental material he was working with. He thought I was glass, beautiful, transparent, fragile. something that could be quietly stressed until it silently shattered. He never realized I was tungsten, dense, resilient, with a melting point so high his little flames couldn't touch me. All he managed to do was temper me, to make me harder, sharper, and infinitely more durable. And in the end, I didn't just survive his blueprint for my destruction. I used its very framework to build a fortress he can never even find on the map.